Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur podcast. It's Matt here, as always, and I almost could say as always, too, with my guest here, but we've got Ty and Brett from Comeuppance Reviews. How are you guys doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is Ty. I don't think we have similar voices, or do we? I don't know.
In case, for first-time listeners who don't know that we're always on your podcast, this is Brett speaking.
And this is Ty speaking.
Excellent. Thank you guys. You know what thing's actually kind of interesting? I think the last time I was on your show, when you posted it, we got a whole bunch. I think I was telling Ty about this. We got a whole bunch of downloads for the episodes on my podcast that you guys were on. So,
that's great.
Yeah,
I love hearing that.
That's right. Yeah.
Was it Trimble?
You were on for Trimble just a few weeks ago.
I think it was the Trimble one that people listened to, and then they went and just like. Yeah, I think that was the one that, because when you uploaded it, remember we uploaded, Richard Haas, I think, shout out to him with DTV Digest, he tagged Jerry Trimble
he said,
in the tweet.
Yeah, I saw that. He responded.
Yeah, he was like, thanks, guys. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Jerry Trimble, wow.
Yeah, we actually got some response from the Trimble himself, so that was very nice to see.
Shows that he cares. Maybe you listened to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if we said anything bad about him, but I don't think so. I
don't think we did.
We kid with love, I think, when we do kid.
Yeah. Yes, I think people do get that. But
I know a certain Steven Seagal, maybe some.
Well, we make fun of him a lot, but there's a slight chance we might have used the word meathead, but I think that's as bad as it got.
Yeah.
I think it was 99+% complimentary to the Trimble man.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that. Trimble man.
We were spotlighting him. We were, we
were seeing how good he was in movies like The Butcher. So,
Right.
He was probably very appreciative.
Yeah, so. And he could have maybe answered our question that we had about, we had that hypothesis that maybe he quit DTV films because he was doing smaller roles in bigger budget things.
Like Heat, Al Pacino and Trimble in the picture. Everyone did the same bits again, but Jerry Trimble, great guy.
Hal making an appearance. That's nice.
We gotta have more. It's more than just Ty and Brett, right? When we do.
If you want more impressions, just come back to me later.
Well, yeah. See, you get Brett. That's the singular person you get on my end. But then with Ty, you get the man of 1,000 voices.
Oh, thanks. Very nice. Yeah. Maybe I'll sneak in some Dolph later.
Yeah, we always like to hear from Dolph, and he thinks.
And we love the space cream, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, we do the
I'll do it.
joke a lot. Yeah.
Sure. I love the face cream. It really helps my wrinkles. So it's like,
yeah. Well, the guy's got to work.
I think we have something soon for the no subject episode. We'll do soon with more Dolph material, which I won't spoil.
Yes, we've got more ideas coming for that. So everybody, definitely they should be checking out, because you guys just put up a new a podcast recently.
We did.
So they should be subscribed to your podcast anyway, so that the moment we do that next no subject episode in your podcast, they'll just log into their phone or whatever, and it'll be right there. They won't have to worry about trying to find it or anything.
And here's a segue. I think there is something from our most recent podcast that you wanted to comment on about the. I believe it's the cliche of the day.
Yeah, so in your most recent podcast episode, your cliche of the day was when the bad guy, right, when he kills somebody and he says, nothing personal, just business.
Yes.
And a lot of times too, it's like a guy who we knew was a bad guy throughout the entire movie, but like maybe the cast thought he was a good guy, and he was like maybe he turns on everybody or something like that. But I always see that whole like nothing personal, strictly business. I've always seen that as like the equivalent to in real life when people say things like, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but, and then they say something that's completely jerky, or I don't mean to sound racist, but, and they say something that's completely racist, as if like that somehow like absolves them from doing that. Somebody's shooting me, I'm going to take it personally. I don't care if it's only business on their end. It's personal to me, right?
I'm going to be flippant about it. Yeah, flippant. It's like, he's shooting me, no problem. It's like,
and usually they're wearing the shooter, not the shootee. I guess that's the person being shot would be the shootee, but the shooter is usually wearing a suit when they say that. If memory serves, usually a suit and tie. Possibly to underline the fact that it's just business, nothing personal.
You're flipping the script.
Right, and I guess that's supposed to make me say when I'm getting shot, if he's wearing a suit, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess it isn't, So I mean, I'm just as dead either way, I guess. But I guess that means when I'm dead, I'm, right before I'm dead, I don't take it as personally.
Right, you're not supposed to feel bad. Like he may be getting shot, but he doesn't want to hurt your feelings.
No. If I was getting shot, I go, because I get shot 500 times with a Tommy gun.
Right, exactly.
Well, I know that's your dream.
With a Tommy gun, that one.
Right. Do the old shimmy when you're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
The other thing too, I always think about with those is like, if it's the hero, right, that the guy is turning on and saying like, hey, it's it's nothing personal, strictly business. Usually it involves like the hero either getting tortured or like getting put in some kind of trap or something that they have to escape from. So that's the other thing too, is that there's some advantage to being the hero in that circumstance, because you're not just killed like the way somebody else in the film would be.
Right. Yeah. And then you brought up another cliche, which is PT, as we call it on the website, prerequisite torture, where the hero, and pretty much every movie post First Blood, there's usually a scene where the hero is tortured in some way, which we call PT. Ironically, not physical therapy, but prerequisite torture of the hero.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we watch like Showdown in Little Tokyo, which is like a
75-minute movie. Example. That's
exactly. It's like a perfect movie, and like I mean, if they didn't have that scene in it where Dolph and Brandon Lee are getting tortured, would any of us have come out of that movie and said, "Boy, it was good, but man, I would have liked to have seen Dolph and Brandon Lee get tortured a little bit to make it a little bit more believable."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the torture is usually my least favorite part of any movie. I mean, I'm just not a big torture fan. I guess they're out there because there's so many like movies that involve torture, but I think it's just to show that the hero is tough and can withstand anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that there was when I first started doing the blog in like 2007, around that time, I was doing Van Damme movie. I can't remember what the Van Damme movie was. Maybe it was Sudden Death or not Sudden Death. Until Death or something like that.
Until Death. Okay, yeah, he was a cop on the edge.
It was some movie where he gets captured by the baddies and he's like shirtless and they tie him up and hang him upside down. And I guess that's how they're getting information out of him or something like that. And so, I was going through the IMDb page for it, and I noticed one of the tags was shirtless male bondage. And I was like, huh. And of course I bring that up in the post. I'm like, are people into that? I didn't realize, I guess you're into anything, right? And that ended up being like the most popular Van Damme post I did, because like
interesting.
Right, exactly.
When you put something out on the internet, you never know who you're going to reach. But some of those IMDb tags are really funny. They're like female nudity. It's like, oh, okay, great. Some of those are very funny.
I think we have one of those shirtless male bondage people on what's the movie Armed Response, because I think Brent Huff is tortured.
Right.
I think some guy commented on there like, hey, look, he's tortured and he's shirtless.
So
Like,
well, he's in Gwendolyn, and doesn't Gwendolyn have to do with like bondage or something like that?
I haven't watched it yet.
No, I've seen it. It's very light. It's not like, heavy serious. It's very comic booky, but I think there might be an element in Gwendolyn to that, and it has Brenhoff, so there might be a connection there.
Yeah, it's like
because it makes me wonder when people make these movies, like especially like now when you're making movies. Back then, obviously in the 80s and 90s, you didn't know you were making a movie that would be tagged on an Internet Movie Database.
Right.
But it makes me wonder if nowadays, like I was thinking about that with Will's, exploding helicopter, his blog and podcast, where a lot of movies are tagged with exploding helicopter, and like you wonder if people just put those things into the movie so that they get the tags and people stumble across them on IMDb for that purpose. But you never know, I guess. Maybe
I would like to think that people are putting what they put in their movies for the IMDb tags, but my guess is probably not. But hey, you never know. It's a crazy world out there.
I do want to mention, I guess I don't want this to be like a rant, but I was telling Matt yesterday, I'm not going to be like Dennis Miller, like cha-cha, whatever he says. So it's like,
I want to go off on a rant here.
Almost like Christian Slater, but Christian Slater meets Dennis Miller. But Cancia Better Roses, I have a rant about that. But anyhow, I was telling Matt about the Polish guy. He doesn't like our reviews on the site. It's all been squared away, but that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I guess for those that don't know, on our website, comeuppance.reviews.net, someone, we don't actually know who it was, but they flagged 2 of our reviews. That the one thing the 2 reviews have in common is the movies are both set in Poland. And
Beyond Forgiveness and Gun Blast Vodka, starring Gott Otto.
Right. So then I don't know why, and there's so many crazy people out there, but I guess I don't know. I honestly don't know why, because there's nothing offensive in them. But he then the blogger came back to, oh no, they're fine and there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah. We got reinstated 20 minutes later, or maybe even less. But it was just like I thought I had to jump through hoops, But
it's just weird to think that there's people out there flagging your reviews, which are not offensive in any way.
No, we said nothing wrong and for Gun Blast Vodka, nothing wrong for Beyond Forgiveness. But then blogger realized they love Gott Otto and TIG.
Well, as we all do,
as quickly as
that's inevitable. Yeah, that's inevitable for every person.
Gott Otto, reinstate immediately.
we can't have some Gott Otto related material off of Blogger for any length of time, or TIG for that matter. Thomas Ian Griffith, for those who
right,
don't
exactly. Yeah, it's quite a world that we navigate with these blogs, right? Like it's like, and like because we both use Blogger, so we're like familiar with that one and the things that pop up there. I don't know if like WordPress has its own.
I was about to say, is WordPress good or?
I would imagine they do, and Tumblr probably does. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's good about Blogger, I guess, is that it's like all kind of synced with Google, and that makes it easier. But yeah, you just never know like what's gonna. And I mean, I guess the fact that they were able to reinstate them so quickly, makes me feel better about it. If somebody ever were to do that with me, with one of mine in the future, like I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like just didn't like the. I mean, thinking about somebody who could have done it, like Albert Pion. I think
he could have been flagged.
Right, exactly. I think the first time I reviewed Mean Guns, I said that a person who directed car commercials could have done a better job than this movie. I mean, he didn't have to flag anything. He could have. Instead, he was like nice about like other reviews I did, and then he was like later on he was like, do you mind giving Mean Guns another look? I think you might actually like it better. And I was like, oh man, that's what I said about that. And he's like actually talking to me on that. It's like,
I thought Mean Guns is a tough sit, but that's a me. So.
Yeah, that was what I thought too. But I probably could have said that in a better way than somebody who directed car commercials could have done it better.
Well, I was thinking of it this way, you could have been meaner. You could have said someone who directs insurance commercials could have done a better job. Because anyone who listens to our podcast knows I hate insurance commercials.
You're nonstop lately, just nonstop.
So if you really wanted to go below the belt, you could have said that. So car commercials, that's not so bad. A lot of actually famous people have directed car commercials. So, you could have been worse. It could have been worse.
No, and whatever happened to that Zoom kid? Maybe he's probably older now.
Right, I remember that. Like, yeah, because the insurance commercial thing is like, it's the most. I don't know what it is, but like I mean, my wife we don't own a car, so we don't need to get car insurance. But it's just like, yeah, it's like the main companies. It's almost like if you ever go to commercial, like anything goes to commercial, there's at least one of each of them.
Exactly. What you can never escape at least one.
And they're relentless. I mean, they're just relentless, and they're not, and they're everywhere. They're on billboards and internet and TV and anywhere you look. And not only are they relentless and so unbelievably repetitive, but they're so annoying. They have these like annoying songs, and just don't get me started. You know, this is your podcast. I don't want to turn it into the I hate insurance commercials show, but you know, the more people I can kind of like connect with about this, the better I'd feel. Like, I'd love for people to come back and say, yeah, I hate those insurance commercials too. It's just enough already. So I'm just trying to get the word out about hating insurance commercials.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't know. I mean, the insurance industry must be so competitive and lucrative at the same time that, like, I mean, because it's not even like these insurance companies, like the commercials are everywhere, but it's like a lot of them have like multiple kinds of ad campaigns. Like, you know, like they'll have like a few different types. So it's like you and like my wife and I were talking about one the other day, and like we were talking about one, and she was like, oh, somebody else does a commercial for them too, and I was like, no, they do a commercial for another company. It's like they kind of all bleed together too at some point.
Well, exactly. I don't know how you can keep track of it all. And then they try to gussy it up with these jokes and like, oh, these Geico commercials are so funny. It's like, no, they're not. Stop thinking Geico commercials are funny. Just stop.
And you know, these emus, and it's like, I don't want to hear. I want to see one more emu. It's like,
or I don't want to see Dr. Skoda, you know, singing about farmers. I don't want to see anything about that. Just stop.
Yeah, that whole emu thing, they think that is so funny, and it is like the most unfunny thing ever. And it's almost like it's like, you know, like somebody in school or somebody who's like telling a joke, and everybody kind of like uncomfortably chuckles, and they read that as like, oh, everybody thinks that's hilarious.
That is what it's like. I think that's true for the Geico gecko as well. Okay, so Geico somewhat kind of sounds like gecko. So let's just hammer that for 35 years.
20, 35 years, 50 years.
I mean, so I think they did the same thing with the emu. It's like, stop, just stop at all.
Press mute fast enough or change the channel, anything.
No, I'm waging a jihad against insurance commercials. Muting, turning off, changing channel, averting my eyes if I ever see them. I'm all out in resisting them.
Maybe that's like an idea for the No Subject podcast. Is like, you know, this guy, like this cop on the edge, or like this revenge. So like maybe somebody died because of an insurance commercial. Like maybe
got run over.
Right, like somebody's like in their car and they hear the insurance commercial come on, and it's so annoying that they're trying to change the station and they can't get the button. Maybe like the button falls off on the knob or something, and then they look up and like they get into a car accident and their whole family dies except for them. You know, the wife and kids, and it's like,
right,
I'm gonna get all of them. You know, it's like they're sitting at home like, you know, you know, sort of mourning the loss of their wife and kids, and then they, you know, like the stubble's there, and they got the hands and the cigarette, and then they see the commercials and they're like, oh, you know, and so that's, you know, sort of like the scene of them going to like their friend, the Machine Gun Joe character, right?
Yeah.
Equips them with all the weapons, and then they just go on like this rampage of just murdering.
I love it. I love it. That would be like my favorite movie of all time. I would love that. It would be like First Blood meets Falling Down. Like, it would just,
that'd be great.
It would just be the most, and then, but there would have to be a twist. You see, it couldn't just be a guy doing like an office shooting, you know, it would have to be like the head of the insurance company is, you know,
conspiracy.
Yeah.
And we have to get some
ruin people's lives through insurance company commercials.
Yeah. Yes. Or like a Halloween 3 type thing where they're trying to like brainwash people through the commercials to do their bidding.
They're already doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because they want us to like hear like these cute songs and be like, oh, now I need to get insurance. Like, oh, here's the list of, oh, look at, I got the little jingle in my head, or oh, there was a funny thing with an emu there. Maybe I'll get their insurance. And it's like, you know, for the rest of us who don't, you know, I mean, I don't know how many times people change their car insurance throughout their lifetime, but I mean, I guess that's the thing. Is like, I guess there must be like some sort of financial incentive for them to bombard us with these commercials, because I have to imagine the ad spends are huge.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. And then, I was saying in the movie, I just had an idea. So like, you know, it's like a Pavlov's dog kind of thing. So they play the insurance jingle, and then someone's like in the middle of doing something in their house, and they just like robotically and mechanically like get up and leave the house because they're like,
buy insurance.
You know, no, but to kill or something. You know, like
sleeper cell.
Yeah, and the song from the insurance commercial like wakes them up. So these armies of people are just like leaving their house, and then they're like going to do the bidding of like the grand, the master of all this, who would be revealed. It could be that sort of thing that awakens them to do evil things.
Yeah, and we can invent our own insurance companies. It could be like, in Pulp Fiction, where he had Red Apple cigarettes instead of an actual cigarette brand because he didn't want to give any, publicity to any of the cigarette companies. We could make our own insurance companies up.
Yeah.
Commercials.
We could figure something out there. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So then when people see every time they hear an insurance commercial after seeing the movie, they're like, yeah, that's as bad. It's like, yeah, you've just destroyed the insurance company.
Yes, that would be so great if we could do that. That would be
McDonald's
amazing.
took a hit for a little while because of Super Size Me.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of the same idea. Like they would have to completely try to rebrand themselves because we would just be, every commercial would be lampooned.
Or just advertise less. How about that? I mean, because speaking of McDonald's, do McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts need to advertise? Like, are people going to go to McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts anyway, no matter what? Like, or someone say, "Oh, here's the new McDonald's ad," and they're like screeching over in mid-traffic to go to McDonald's.
I need a munchkin now.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see that happen. I feel like they could cut back on their advertising budgets and then give all their employees a raise. And then,
that'd be very nice.
I mean, don't you think if you ask the employees of Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's, what would you rather have? Another like multi-million-dollar ad campaign that doesn't do anything, or a raise in your paycheck? What do you think they would say?
I'll get the raise.
Right, or like, do you have to add 30 things to the menu? Like when I go to Dunkin' Donuts, like I'm like looking at this huge menu of items, and it's like, sure, I'd like to try this or try that, but I also would be perfectly fine if I walked into that Dunkin' Donuts and half of those things weren't on there. Or same thing with McDonald's. Like, I don't need like a crispy this or crispy that thing. It's like, like if I went into McDonald's and it just had like the standards that I remember from 30 years ago, like I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm leaving. No, they haven't put anything new on this menu in years. I can't eat here. It's just not right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's one of those make work things where like certain people have jobs at McDonald's and they just have to keep their jobs going. So they just invent stuff even if it doesn't need to be invented.
Like crispy chicken, I see that beef sandwich.
They just move stuff around. Like, occasionally they'll roll out McDonald's pizza or McDonald's fajitas or whatever. I
think we're supposed to be talking about somebody shortly. I have a good some sort of Okay.
I know we gotta. Well, we could segue here actually.
Yeah, here's a good segue. Robert Ginty.
He loves avocado toast from Dunkin' Donuts.
Right. Yeah, because the guy we're talking about, Robert Ginty, is someone who I always refer to as Ginty Moore.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good comfort food. I mean, a good Dinty Moore beef stew or Ginty Moore beef stew. It's like.
Yes.
That's how that came about, right? Because you probably saw like Ginty Moore beef stew.
Right, I just heard the word Ginty and I just in my head like Dinty Moore beef. Because when I was a kid, that was like a big thing. Was that you'd get like Dinty Moore or beefaroni or those kinds of things, and it was like you could always just like if my parents were working or whatever, like those were like kind of the first things I learned how to cook. Right, you just like dump the can in a pot and heat it on medium heat for like 10 minutes or something, and there we go. That's my after school meal or something.
Yeah, so it has positive associations, and so that's why you like Robert Ginty so much, I'm sure.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about when we were coming up with the idea for this show of talking about Robert Ginty is that. He might have been the first DTV star. Like it was just like strictly like kind of as DTV was becoming a thing in the mid '80s. He might have been like the first one that was like he's doing DTV stuff almost exclusively.
It's a good point because he did a lot of interesting stuff in the late '80s, which I'll mention. I mean, like Gold Raiders, something like that.
Yeah. He was going all over the world doing these movies for different international directors and production companies, and most of them, if not all of them, ended up direct to video here. They might have played in theater overseas, but in the US they're all DTV. And just so people don't get confused, we're not talking about Jesse Vint. We're talking about Robert Ginty. Different guy.
Robert Gint.
Yeah, Gint. Yeah. When he came over on Ellis Island, they almost shortened it to that, but they decided to leave the Y.
Why exactly? Well, that was one of the things I was thinking about when because on your podcast you guys have the bid for seriousness, right, where somebody uses the nickname for their first name, but obviously Robert is not the nickname, right? That's the serious name. But because Ginty, it seems like it's short for something else. So I was thinking, like, I don't know, maybe like Robert Gintru would be if you wanted to bid for seriousness.
Robert Gintington? I don't know.
Yeah, Bob Gintington. Just like that.
Yeah, that's his real name. Then he lengthened the first name and shortened the last name. Don't see that done too often.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because it's interesting with him. For me, I think my first experience with him, I had seen him and stuff. I think he's one of those actors that, because he did stuff like in the 70s and 80s on TV shows that, like, you'd see him in things, but you really wouldn't think anything, or at least for me, I would see him in things but not think anything of it.
Right, I get what you're saying there.
Yeah. And I think beyond The Exterminator, I think the first time I really experienced him was when Mystery Science Theater 3000 made fun of Warrior of the Lost World, where they kept referring to him as the paper chase guy, and they were talking about his like demeanor and like how he was like whining and stuff like that. And I've come to know that that's kind of just how Ginty is in his movies, and it's actually kind of charming now. But that was like my first introduction to him.
Yeah.
I think mine was The Exterminator. Obviously.
It has to be The Exterminator. Well, and I'm a fan of the second one. I think it's underrated and underappreciated. But if we're just talking about, our first introduction to the Ginster, I would have to say it's The Exterminator, which that in itself was a video store classic. Kind of branching off from its, I guess you'd call it grindhouse initial run. I think of that as being like a really good example of an 80s sort of 42nd Street grindhouse, gritty grindhousey movie, which I love. I mean, that's like my bread and butter. I mean, I love movies like that. So obviously I was very into The Exterminator and part 2 as well.
Because it makes me think of The Executioner Part 2. There's no Executioner Part 1.
No, there isn't. And that's a great movie that people should watch too.
Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen The Executioner.
Oh, you should. It's so much fun.
You just want to laugh. Just watch it.
I mean, it's so absurd. It's great. It's really great. You will be entertained thoroughly.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, now that you mentioned about Exterminator, I kind of forgot about that fact that it was very much a it was like an HBO staple and a video store staple. It's like whenever you went to the action section, there was that picture of the cover there with him holding the flamethrower with the
awesome.
mask on and everything. That was one that I don't think I think it was one of those things where if you opened a video store, you were given a copy of that to put on the shelf, it's part of the deal, part of the video store owners guild of America would hand you a copy.
Well, certain movies, definitely in the video store era, there were certain movies like that, and I think that they varied from video to video store, which is video store to video store, which is just another thing that makes the mom and pop video store era so fascinating. But yes, I do think that was one of them for a lot of video stores.
And what's interesting about Ginty and him being like a video store, staple is okay, you're out of Stallone, you're out of Schwarzenegger. It's I'm going to roll the dice on Robert Ginty. He was a roll of dice type of guy. Usually delivered though. You have to take a chance on him. That's the thing.
Right. Well, because one of the things I think when we were growing up was that we went to the movie theater a lot more. And so it was like if you were, with a group of friends and you had to pick out a movie, it was almost a given that somebody would have watched one of the, if it was a big movie, a Stallone movie or a Schwarzenegger movie, something like that, there's a good chance that at least somebody in the group had seen it. And it's like, well, what's a movie that nobody has seen yet?
Yes. I love this.
Right. Ginty was more likely to be one that nobody had seen yet.
It's like
that's true. You can sort of pull that card and say, "Oh, yeah, you guys have seen this and this, but have you seen this?" It's kind of like that. What I don't know if the right word for that is. It's like a surprise move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, whoa, Ginty! What's this awesome cover? It's is that what you said?
Sure, why not? Well, certainly with The Exterminator, who would look at that cover, that VHS cover, and not want to rent it? Is that even possible?
Yeah. And I mean, you make. Sorry.
No, that's all I said.
Oh, okay. Sorry. One of the things I was thinking about, Ty, with your Instagram page is that, Ginty, I think more than anybody, he's the kind of person that would make movies that those covers, like if you would post one of those Ginty covers, it would just boom 100 likes like right away. Like he made like the most like kind of like even his movies that weren't that good, like the VHS covers had that like nostalgia VHS look to them that I always love.
And he was front and center on a lot of the covers. So he was a star in his own right. That, like, his face was enough to be front and center on these boxes. I mean, obviously not the Exterminator, because that was early on and he was wearing a mask. But later, where, like, if you look at the cover for, any of his video store classics, but certainly Out on Bail, that's just like Ginty looking mean, holding a gun, and then you know what you're going to get. You're going to get Ginty unleashed.
I love that. I love that we're talking about Robert Ginty.
Yeah. Now one of the things. It is. Now, one thing I should confess is I haven't seen as many Ginty movies as I would like to have.
Okay.
So it's like probably when we go through the list, there's going to be a bunch that you guys have that I haven't seen before. And one of the things that kind of disappointed me was that there were some that I really wanted to see that are just not anywhere. Like they're not on. You really have to like get them through. Find them through a secondary VHS seller. Because they weren't on YouTube, and that Tubi or one of those places doesn't have them, which is too bad. So we may find some of the ones that we're talking about here kind of fit that category of you might not be able to find them.
Well, I think that's certainly the case with a movie called Maniac Killer.
Yeah, I want to see that one.
I would love to find that. It has Bo Svensson, Chuck Connors, and Robert Ginty, and it's about like a serial killer on the loose. And I'd love to find that
anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
have you seen that available?
Review. The German person reviewed it, and they must have gotten a German copy of it. I wonder if that's
on YouTube.
Is it on YouTube?
No, I would watch on YouTube.
Yeah, I wonder if this is one we might have to get talk to Simon and see if he found like a German VHS copy.
Oh yeah, because this was never released in the U.S. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I typed in Maniac Killer 1987 in YouTube. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's all just clips.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's too rare for right now, unless someone uploads it.
Yeah.
I hope someone is listening. We can. You want to jump to the list, or you want?
Why not? Yeah, why not? We'll jump right in. And so, I think we'll kind of do it like we usually do, right? We'll see if we have overlap, and that will kind of skip us through if we need to. But we'll kind of go from there. So if you want to do your number 5.
Okay, I have Codename Vengeance.
That's your number 5?
Yeah.
That's my number 5 too.
Perfect.
Immediate overlap. I love that.
Monroe Beeler.
Yes, nothing like Justin Bieber at all.
Well, this movie is notable for this one particular scene that we've talked about. Now, I don't want to give it away. No, Matt, it's your show. If you want to give it away.
Matt watched it.
So,
if you want to talk about it, that's entirely up to you. But I do want to say that the scene makes the movie.
Yeah, so we should talk about it. But if you want to be kind of if you want no spoilers when you're going to watch the movie, just skip ahead about 30 seconds or maybe a minute.
30 seconds. Well, unless we keep talking about it for 15 minutes, you got to skip a lot.
Which is entirely possible because it's such an amazing moment.
If you hear us, if you don't hear us talking about a different movie, keep that in mind. So,
or if you hear the word forklift said numerous times, listen for the word forklift. Yeah, listen for that noise Ty just made.
White fire. It's like
yeah, exactly. Oh, they're talking about white fire. Okay, it's safe now.
Yeah, I would say one thing I would say about us talking about this is it may sell you on watching the movie. Like you may hear us talking about it and it sounds so great that it might be the thing that makes you want to actually watch this.
That's true too. Yeah, that is true. And people might not care because it's not really a spoiler. It's just because it has nothing to do with the plot. It's just a great moment that it is surprising and fun when you first see it and you don't know it's coming. So it's not technically a spoiler, but it kind of is because it's better to go in fresh, in my personal opinion. But hey, you're the listener and you decide.
Before we get to this, I just want to, I mentioned Beeler, and it sounds like Bieber. Which I have to mention again that Justin Bieber wanted to do a remake of Fear with Marky Mark.
I didn't hear.
Yeah, which is really funny. And he wanted his blessing, Marky Mark's blessing. He's like, nah, man. It's like,
he said no.
He said
no. Yeah, Marky Mark said no.
But wouldn't it be great though if it was made, because it'd be Justin Bieber, I don't know, stalking, Selena Gomez.
Right.
He probably has a high pitched voice, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill you," or whatever.
Selena. Ah!
The thing is he would really have to pull off a Boston accent, because that's what made Fear for me was Mark Wahlberg being like, "Daddy, you will forever hold your peace," and stuff like that.
I know. Well, I don't get too many spoilers. I don't think. What, Ray? You haven't seen Fear?
I've never actually seen Fear, so
okay.
But
I think we're going to be talking about Fear that much longer. So,
but that's fun to mention that again, because it's a funny idea of Bieber remade Fear. It would just be on all these lists next to Geely or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the Bieber Fear remake would be. Well, it's never too late,
but yeah, we'll go to the bit with Codename Vengeance. We'll get right to keep talking about the list.
I mean, because when I was so when I mentioned to you, Ty, that I was going to watch Codename Vengeance, because I think it's available on FilmRise. So if anybody has FilmRise, I mean, FilmRise is it's free, and I think it's one of those things where you can get the app on like your Roku device or your cable box or something. And so that was how I watched it, was through that. And so you had mentioned like there's a scene that you're really going to love. And so then when I got to the scene, I was like, okay, forklift, grenades, is that it? You were like, yeah,
yes. This is so great because it's so slow moving, and they've ample time to avoid their fate, and they're just yelling like and just kind of letting this explosion play out, and even though they have ample time to avoid it, it's gut bustingly hilarious. I mean, it's so funny.
Well, that, and also I like that he, for good measure, so just for people that just to kind of let everybody know what happens is that they're Ginty and the guy that he's with are sort of like in a firefight with some of the baddies. So the baddies are led by James Ryan. So anybody who's ever seen Space Mutiny, James Ryan is the guy who talks about confusing, was it treason with freedom or something, and he like stabs somebody.
And also he's the guy from American Cyborg Steel Warrior, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Was he was the
he was the Steel Warrior, or the American Cyborg. Yeah,
he was American Cyborg. And Steel Warrior is Joe Lara, right?
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he was kind of a mainstay for AIP, because this was an AIP film. It's directed by David Winters, and so I think he kind of did a lot along with Cameron Mitchell, who's also in the movie. But so like they're having a shootout with James Ryan's baddies, and they Ginty loads up a forklift with like gasoline and grenades.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, and he just sends it at these guys. It kind of sets it in motion. But then also too, for good measure, he bowls a grenade underneath it, I think, to set it off. Like he just kind of like rolls it in its direction, and so yeah, it was like. It's one of those things where I think like the movies from this time and the ideas that people were making when they made these movies, I don't think you could ever do anything like that today. Like I think if somebody made a movie in 2021 and they did that, it would either be seen as too like campy, like somebody was doing it on purpose. I don't know. It works in 1987 somehow.
Absolutely, and that's part of what makes it so enjoyable. And the way we described it, it's hard to see how funny it is, but it's all about the timing of it. Like you have to keep your eye on the timing of how this all plays out, and I guarantee you will laugh.
100% chance.
Yeah.
So
that alone makes the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ginty has that like Ginty quality to him that this sort of like kind of I mean, he's got the New York accent that he really never had any interest in trying to get rid of. He just he was happy to have his New York accent all the time. He almost kind of slurs his words, but there's like a presence that he has where you're just like, yeah, you got to see him. We want to see him like take all these guys down. So it all kind of works in that sense.
Oh, absolutely, and it's definitely a throwback to the whole exterminator thing. It's just like I'm a New York guy, and that's it. There is something very charming about that. Again, once the type of thing you would not get today.
Well, that's a good start to watch. Well, you start watching Exterminator 1 and 2, and then you move on to other Gintys. This would be another good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, after you've watched Exterminator 1 and 2, that if you've never seen any Gintys, watch those. That would be like your opening Gintys that you would need to watch if you are not familiar. And then you move on to Codename Vengeance.
Yeah. Now I should point out, I think the Exterminator is not as easy. Well, we'll talk about those later. But this is one you can find. This is one that you can find. So I think it's definitely it's for me. I definitely had fun with it. I think it's
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's good Ginty.
The good one.
Well,
the good
this is my number 5 as well. Then what was your number 4?
Out on Bail.
Okay, so this is one I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
Oh, you were gonna like this one. This is prime Ginty.
Is it?
Yeah. He has like he rides a motorcycle. He has a cool kind of half stubble, and he got Kathy Shower. I don't know if you've seen any of her movies. It's like, with a name like that. Like,
but she was sort of mainstay of the erotic thrillers, aka Sizzlers, of the time.
So he plays a guy named John D, and he's kind of like an ex-con from the. I'm trying to remember the plot too much, but he's like he's cleaning up the town. He's cleaning up the corrupt town.
Right, and he's sort of like there, and people want to get rid of him, but he's doing his own thing, and he doesn't talk very much, so you don't really know what he's up to. And then, but he has his own mission, and he won't be swayed, kind of thing.
Yeah, he has his own brand of justice. So it's like,
no, it is available on YouTube. So.
Oh, good! Thank goodness. So things are available.
Froggy Flicks. I don't know if you've heard of Froggy Flicks. I think they've got a good amount of stuff on there.
I think we've come across Froggy Flicks once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out. What's your number 4?
So my number 4 is 3 Kinds of Heat.
I've never seen that. I've heard of it. I've never seen it
either.
So it's an interesting one. So just based on your description of Out on Bail, I don't know if it's as good as Out on Bail. It does drag a little bit, but Ginty is fantastic in it. I think that's part of it. He just has it's an old canon flick. So it has that canon late 80s feel to it. From a production standpoint.
I know what you mean. The kind of production value, it's good, but it's also kind of a little bit junky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has exactly all that. It's shot in both New York and London. And so Ginty plays this guy who's working for the State Department, and they're chasing this organized crime ring called the Black Lion. And at the same time, Shakti Chen, who's in it, and then Victoria Barrett is the other star. So Victoria Barrett's a New York cop, and Shakti Chen's a Hong Kong cop who chases. That classic. I don't call it. Maybe that's another cliche, right? The cop from another precinct in another part of the world who has to team up.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the 3 Kinds of Heat then.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. So those are the 3 kinds of heat. And he, what happens is he's told by I guess I don't know if it's like the UN or something, because he works for the State Department. They're like, you got to be the one to take down the Black Lion. He's like, well, I need a team to work with. I got to find some guys to work with. And so it's like, I have these 2 women that I met, and because what happens is he meets the 2 women in a shootout at JFK Airport where they're checking their bags, when the baggage check. And so he's like, I know these 2 women that would be perfect for this, And so he teams up.
It's almost like Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, Rod Dangerfield, I guess.
Rod.
My Ginty is it's probably my Ginty's kind of a cross between Yogi Bear and Rodney Dangerfield. I get no respect from these women I'm working with.
Yeah. No respect for these picnic baskets.
Wow, that's what a combination.
Yeah, it is on Prime. I think it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, I think if this movie, again, this is kind of like what we were saying about Codename Vengeance. I think if this movie was made in 2020, you'd be like, man, this is boring. It's not going anywhere. It's got a lot of moments in the middle where nothing's happening. Whereas in 1987, there's enough nostalgia that when things aren't happening in the middle, there's so many 80s things to pick out and be like, oh, look at that that payphone there, or that car or something like that it kind of gets it through. And then of course Ginty's style, it's still very Ginty. His style is still very Ginty, which helps.
Yes, well, I mean, if it's very 80s, that's certainly up my alley. And I do think you've pioneered the use of Ginty as an adjective.
Yes, right.
Right. Yeah. Which it sounds like anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think just the way you described Out on Bail, which I haven't seen yet, I think that's probably better than this one. Because my list is a little bit shorter because of that. But I think, it's worth checking out. I think for people that are 80s nostalgists. And again, it's a canon film. So you get that kind of that nostalgia feel when you you start it up and you get the Canon logo popping in the middle of the screen there like that. So it kind of hits all those notes. I think it works in that sense.
Sounds like a winner.
Oh, good. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's not a great movie, but it's good for the nostalgia factor.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Our next movie we have is Gold Raiders, directed by P. Chalong.
Yeah, P. Chalong. Definitely an underappreciated, under-heralded director of the day.
'Cause he loves his gold. Because he got Gold Raiders and he got in Gold We Trust with J. Michael Vincent and Sam Jones at his best. If you haven't seen it, Matt.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen. So I haven't seen either. I haven't seen Gold Raiders. That was one I was considering. Like I wanted to try to catch for this, but I don't remember if it's available. But yeah. So yeah, this is another one that I definitely need to catch.
Well, it's shot in Thailand, and Robert Ginty's trying to get a bunch of gold. That's basically the plot. We called him the Gint in the review. So.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? This is in my YouTube queue, and I just never got a chance to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, so definitely now it's on my up next to watch for sure.
Yeah,
and also it should be noted for wrestling fans that Dusty Rhodes is also in the movie.
Oh, nice.
I forgot about
that. But as far as Pete Long, people should definitely check out certainly Gold Raiders and In Gold We Trust. Now, In Gold We Trust, this doesn't have Ginty, but that has Christoph Klupel, right?
Yeah, Christoph Klupel. What do you guys see this guy, Matt?
It's like Gold We Trust. I'm pulling up here.
This guy, he's a meathead, but it's like a tall, fun meathead. So,
great. So it doesn't have any pictures of him on IMDb, so
I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's hard to find pictures of Klupel. It's like,
oh, is he the guy? So I see one of the movies he did was Dark Day Express, which is like this.
Oh yes.
Is that him on the cover with like the three?
Does he have a mustache?
Barrel gun. Yeah, with a mustache. Yeah.
I think that's Klupel.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And as far as other Pete Long, on top of In Gold We Trust and Gold Raiders, he also did The Lost Idol, which is kind of about gold also, because I think it's an idol made of gold.
Yeah,
it has Eric Estrada.
Eric Estrada, it's getting that idol made of gold. So.
Yeah, I could always go anytime I see Eric Estrada in something. They're the Lost Idol. There it is, Philip. Yeah, I mean, I see like it looks like he had like 3 or 4 right in this window here. So like Gold Raiders and something that doesn't make any sense. It's this RXYPA. I don't know what movie that is. And then, Eyes of the Condor, Lost Idol, and In Gold We Trust. Like they all look like they could be good.
Yeah, they're all pretty good. Most of these gold movies by Pete Long are pretty fun. Lost Idol's good too. Wait, Lost Idol is the title?
Yeah. Lost Idol.
Yeah, when Eric Estrada is shooting people, it's a little slow going because he's mostly in a cave, paunch. But it's just.
But what's interesting again about Gold Raiders is that it's his first kind of action movie after The Exterminator. So he did a bunch of TV like Love Boat and such, and then he went from Exterminator to Gold Raiders, which is kind of an interesting move to make. And so it is the next theatrical film he made after The Exterminator. So people kind of tend to know The Exterminator, not so much Gold Raiders. So definitely another side to Ginty, and maybe you see him as more of an adventurer, not just a guy who's in New York and beating up people, but someone who will go to Thailand and look for gold and stuff. That was his next move after The Exterminator. Kind of interesting.
And a lot of these Ginty movies we're talking about are really only on VHS, or maybe now somewhere on streaming. But if there was no streaming, it would just be on VHS. Because Gold Raiders and Out on Bail, they're not on DVD.
Right.
No, I mean, Exterminator 2, Exterminator 2 have gotten Blu-ray releases, and a movie where I assume we're going to be talking about White Fire.
Yes.
Got a Blu-ray release. But yeah, you're right. Most of this stuff is VHS only or streaming.
Yeah.
Or not at all.
Yeah. No, White Fire is another one, I guess we'll be talking about in a second. But that's one that I was looking for and couldn't find anywhere.
Oh.
So it's not on YouTube or anything. I think some of these you got to get lucky and get a VHS if I mean, what happened, I think, with like Secret of King Mahi's Island, the Daniels film that was kind of like the Holy Grail forever, was Simon got a copy of that, and then I don't know if he had it on Cinemageddon or someone he knew put it on Cinemageddon, and then that's when JCT got it off of Cinemageddon and uploaded it on YouTube. So I think that's what has to happen, is that whoever. It's one thing for the person to get the movie, right? But then they've got to rip it, put it on some site like Cinemageddon for someone else to upload onto YouTube. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a process, and hopefully that will happen with Maniac Killer at some point.
Isn't there another movie, and it's called Taxi Killer? Have you heard of this one?
No.
Right.
But that's not a Ginty, though, right?
No, it's not. I was thinking of that title made me think of the other title. That's kind of hard to find. It's like a slasher from the late 80s or early 90s.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
I'll show you later.
Oh, Stelvio Massey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Director of the Black Cobra movies with Fred Williamson.
says it has Jane Lynch. Is this the Jane Lynch? The one who's
I
like...
might be, yeah. Someone should ask her about that.
It is, it's her, yeah.
Someone should ask her about that. Same as they should ask Sandy Bullock about Hangman or some other silly movie she's made.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, and then, yeah, all right. Well, because there is another movie I want to mention that's kind of hard to find, but maybe I don't want to get too bogged down. Do you guys know about a movie called Double Cross on Costa's Island?
Yes.
And it has Franco Columbu and Ginty.
I looked
and Frank Stallone and William Smith.
It's the same movie as Taken Alive. It's just a new version. Because if you look up Taken Alive, Brett, it has the same people. It's just a new version.
From 3 years later.
Well, what makes it a new version?
I don't know. That's what I read online. Just Taken Alive is
the same too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a sequel. I think it's actually I read it's the same version as Taken Alive, but with new footage.
Oh, okay. So you would still have to see it. It's not the same movie.
It's not the same movie, but it has like 50% or 30% new footage. You know.
And Taken Alive, the cover of that is pretty amazing.
Did you ever see the cover? You gotta look that up, Matt. So go ahead, Brett.
That's all I was gonna say.
Well, I see, because I see Double Cross. Somebody actually in the IMDb reviews, like somebody said they got it for $1 at Walmart, which on DVD, so that means this thing was available on DVD. So yeah, that's another part of the direct-to-video, experience, right? Is that you just don't know with movies like this if is. You're like who, where did this come from, right? Did it get repurposed or something? Is it?
Yeah, and even if you didn't know, and then one day you're walking around Walmart and you happen to see it, it's like, oh, this came out. Oh, okay.
Franco Columbu. You gotta check out the trailer for Taken Alive because it's like Schwarzenegger's like, I watch Taken Alive. It's just like
Wait, Schwarzenegger's in the trailer?
He's the voiceover in the trailer at the end, like my friend Franco Columbu. It's just like you got the rent Taken Alive. It's like you'll crack up. It's definitely online. It's like
I mean the cast is immense. Frank Stallone, William Smith, or obviously Ginty.
Bob Gint.
Yeah.
So
Columbu.
Columbu, Barbara Niven is I mean,
I always wanted to see it. It's a tough movie to find, both versions.
Yeah.
But as far as Whitefire, I think the reason why you can't find it online is because Arrow released it on Blu-ray, and they're probably very proprietary as far as. So you would have to buy it, but it's at the current time it's $30, and I think that's a bit much to pay for that. So I'm waiting for the price drop, but when it does, because usually the Arrow Blu-rays do, I'm going to pick that up because I do think it's worth owning, but not for that price.
I bought the tape for about $12, so it's like I didn't want to pay $30.
No, that explains it because actually I think you could rent the Arrow stream of it for like $2 on YouTube.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and Arrow does have their own streaming network, like just about everybody else, which is one of those monthly things. It's like $5.99 or whatever it is a month, but you get access to the Arrow, archive. So that if people out there wanted to do that, I think that's another way to do that.
Yeah, it's available to rent. I actually have to sign in to confirm my age.
Right. Well, there is some adult content.
Yeah, there's some adult content there, but it doesn't say how much it costs. Oh, I guess you subscribe to you subscribe to YouTube Movies. That's what it is.
Oh,
and,
okay.
It's part of that subscription, whatever that subscription is or something. I don't know.
You don't rent stuff on YouTube, do you?
No, I never have. No.
Yeah, me either. I just try to get it for free.
Right.
Robert Ginty full movie on YouTube.
Yeah. But that would explain if Arrow has it, they probably went through YouTube and just scrubbed.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so I mean, maybe we should jump ahead. So I guess so what your number 3 was was that one. So my number 3 was Exterminator 2.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know if that one's on your list as well, but
well, I made it as a tie for the number 2 slot.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I mean, the Exterminator 2, I think for me is another one that fits that bill of like the 80s and you're watching it and it's like 80s New York City, and then there's this like kind of like, I mean, because at that time I think in the 70s when Exterminator came out in 1980, there was this whole like slew from Death Wish, the actual Punisher in comic books, this idea of somebody that went out there and just kind of took out the bad guys.
Yes.
But this one here, Exterminator. I mean, there were moments in the movie where I'm like, boy, this stuff is taking too long. Like when they kill the armored car driver. It just like takes forever to get him to the train tracks where he dies. That some of the stuff took forever, but overall, I think Ginty was just immense, like just energy in the film.
Yeah, prime Ginty.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. The '80s vibe is pretty darn awesome, and it's an entertaining movie. And let's not forget Mario Van Peebles as X, the bad guy.
Just about to mention X.
Yeah.
That was my bad guy name.
And if people are interested, the Blu-ray has a commentary with Mario Van Peebles, and I think the director talking about it. And it's a pretty interesting listen that I would recommend.
And
I have that. That's one of the few movies I have on VHS and Blu-ray, because I can't part with my big box VHS. And then when the Shout Factory Blu-ray came out, I had to have that too. So I actually have it on 2 formats.
Nice. Yeah, and I mean, right now, as we're recording this, it's available on StreamPix through cable. If anybody has StreamPix, like right now, StreamPix is doing a free preview where they're not including all of their movies. So like for example, the Dolph Lundgren film, was it Lady Fight Squad? Is that what's?
Oh, Female Fight Squad, which we watched recently.
Yeah, I cannot get that name right. I it's always like some combination that doesn't work, and it's like Female Fight Club, Lady Fight Squad. Like I can't.
Well, I think it was originally called Female Fight Club. They had to change it.
Yeah, Female Fight Squad, and
so it's understandable. Yeah, Lady, and there's a Ginty movie which we might be mentioning later with the word "lady" in it.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. So but yeah. So StreamPix is like they're doing some kind of thing for like through June, I think, where because I think StreamPix is a subscription service. I think you pay like $5 a month and you get access to their catalog. It's one of those things I think with a lot of those ones, whether it's Epix or StreamPix or something like that, where it's like a good chunk of what they have available you can get on Prime already, or you can get on Tubi, so it's not really worth to pay in a lot of cases. But every once in a while there's a movie here or there, and so Exterminator 2 is one that was on there. I think they actually took it down shortly and then they put it back up. So yeah, anybody who yeah, so people listening, if you have cable, if you're paying, if you haven't cut the cord, you probably could find this as part of your cable package at least through July 1st of 2020.
Yeah, and if you want to hear the commentary, obviously you have to get the Blu-ray, but it depends how deep into Exterminator 2 you want to go. But it is a very interesting listen. So yeah. I personally would recommend that.
Yeah, I think I should probably get that. I'm kind of curious myself to kind of, especially Mario Van Peebles. I have he seems like he would be a good commentary person.
Well, he is, and because of the 80s and of how they were doing things at the time, it's him with the director, so they're obviously in the same room together, and they have a good interplay, and they both seem very down to earth. They're not going off on these flights of fancy. They're just kind of telling it like it was, and yeah, definitely a good listen.
All right, excellent. Well, I guess now we're on to number 2. What did you guys have for number 2?
I have Exterminator 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah. This might be coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we already kind of talked about that a little bit. So we can go.
Unless, Matt, you want to say something that we didn't say about the Exterminator films.
Yeah, so I actually have Exterminator as my number 1. So maybe we can we'll chat about them here, and then we can go on to my number 2. It's like, I think the Exterminator series, I think, like you talked about, like there's something about it. Like I think people use the term iconic maybe too much, but when we think about the video store, that Exterminator box was just it just was something that you saw there. But also too, I think with HBO, like whenever my parents would get the free HBO weekend, it seemed like the Exterminator was something that was on at some point in the 80s. Like no, I do think it was a mainstay of HBO, maybe not to the extent that like Meatballs or Porky's were, but it was definitely there. And I do, of course, remember the Embassy VHS. I mean, who doesn't remember that? So, I mean, I think it can be considered a bona fide classic. I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I remember.
People enjoy the movie. I don't heard one negative thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I wasn't sure if I was going to review because I think when I watched it, when I was younger or whatever, it was like I mean, the thing with both Exterminator movies is they are dark and they're violent and they don't really pull punches in all the ways. And I was man, I don't know if I want to get into some of like the really nasty stuff that happens in that movie, but it was like one of those things too, where it's like you can't do a blog about like, you know, direct-to-video action, even though this wasn't direct-to-video. You know, it went into the theater, but I think it had a huge impact on the direct-to-video market. That you know, it was the way it was shot, the way things happened in the movie. It was something that I think a lot of direct-to-video filmmakers, kind of the same way, you know, Rambo was one that influenced a lot of them. I think this movie also did.
Oh yeah, I definitely think, yeah, for its influence factor alone, I do think it's worth mentioning. I mean, having, you know, reviews written about it just for that alone. But yeah, I mean, like we kind of talked about the whole 42nd Street grindhouse vibe of it all. I mean, it's something that can't be duplicated.
Yeah, but yeah, these are a bit darker, I think, than some of the other Ginty ones we've talked about. Like the Exterminator films, like they you know, they kind of keep it, you know, you know, bad things happen in these movies.
Oh yeah, well, that's the thing. You had to really please and appease those 42nd Street audiences. You know, they're tough, they're yelling at the screen, they're doing drugs. I mean, who knows what they're doing? So you have to, you know, you can't be wimpy. You know, you really got to give them the goods.
Yeah,
and this one delivered the goods.
Yeah, they're that good, I think. And so, you know, I think because I think, I don't know where you can get the Exterminator. I think you have to rent it from Prime if you don't want to go out and buy it. But I mean, I think, you know, like you were saying, Brad, I think the DVDs, these are the Exterminator 1 and 2, I think, are also like for people that have action movie collections. I think these are like investments. Those are things that are worth having in your collection.
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially if you're, yeah, like the classic status of them would definitely warrant that. And, you know, they've come out in nice editions on Blu-ray. I think, you know, they cross over not just action crowd, but I think a lot of the horror crowd would be interested in them too. So even though they're not really horror movies, but they definitely kind of fit the category a little bit. Yeah, they have elements. So, I mean, yeah. So I think there's that sort of crossover to the horror fan appeal. So, I mean, that's why it's, you know, up my alley in the 80s. I mean, it came out in 1980. I mean, it's got a lot going for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think part 2 gets a little bit more on the camp side, like when he's like souping up a garbage truck to go and attack them.
That took a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the pacing, it has some pacing issues. I think the director was more of a producer. I don't know if I'm just talking off the top of my head. I don't think he directed anything else before. So yeah, there's some pacing issues, but don't let that stop you. I mean, that's a minor quibble, I would say.
Yeah. And I think there might have been a third one that was released that, like, I think it even has Ginty on the cover, but like it doesn't have Ginty in it. And I don't know if maybe they used footage of him or something. I don't know.
I never saw that. I didn't even know there was an Exterminator 3. I don't think.
I think there is, but it's like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing.
You could be thinking of the Exterminator Part 2, then what we mentioned earlier, which is just a bunch of silliness.
Executioner Part 2.
Oh, sorry, the Executioner Part 2. Yeah, but I think that they wanted people to get confused, like I just did about that.
Well, because Letterboxd. So if you look up Robert Ginty on Letterboxd, it mentions a movie, an Exterminator 3, which it's not in his bio. It's not in Ginty's bio at all. And so I don't really know what the story is.
Weird things to Letterboxd. It's not always true there.
Yeah, that was something I think. It's interesting with Letterboxd. Like you never, you know, like some of the stuff that you find on there. Like if you look up Seagal on there, they, you know, I guess the way that they decided to put his TV show on DVD was to package the episodes into two, like, into movies.
True Justice. Yeah, it's like 5 different movies.
Right, and so they list those movies as if they're like, but when you go to IMDb, of course, they don't list them as movies because they're not movies; they're just episodes of the TV show.
All right, so that was.
I have my number 1 pick. We can go the Matt first if you want.
Well, so my number two.
Yeah, what's your number 2 pick?
Yeah, because my number 2, because my number 1 ended up being Exterminator, but my number 2 was Warrior of the Lost World. So this one's kind of a personal favorite of mine. It's just, you know, of course, this, you know, again, seeing him on MST3K, but then when I watched the movie myself later and got to see it on my own, I kind of had a new appreciation for it. You know, you know, Ginty he's like pure Ginty in it, which I think helps. You know, it's, you've got the Ginty aspect of it, but then also Fred Williamson's in it, Persis Kambata, Donald Pleasance as the villain, which is always kind of fun. I think it was one of those things where it's like you see it on MST3K and they're making fun of him the whole time, and I get it, right? Because his character is kind of goofy a little bit, but then when you see enough, like like the Exterminator and things like that, and you get a sense of like, no, Ginty's kind of like that. He just kind of he has this kind of like, yeah, I don't really care kind of mentality in his films that I think makes
a
it
good portion
better.
of them, yeah.
Right. It's kind of part of his charm, I guess.
It's not contempt like Burt Reynolds and like Malone.
Right. No, he wants his character to be this kind of like roguish, roguish goofball kind of person who still gets the job done. Yeah, as opposed to, like you said, like Burt Reynolds, you can, or like Bruce Willis now, right? You can like kind of see the contempt like kind of rising off their heads.
I never got a contempt vibe from Ginty.
No, just Bruce Willis and Burt Reynolds.
Right. Yeah. He just like this idea of maybe like the roguish, the character who's like kind of, I mean, in some of his movies he doesn't really have that. Like I think, Bounty Hunter, things like that, where he's a little bit more serious. There isn't that. But a lot of these, especially these '80s ones, he had this kind of this goofy vibe that was, he could still get things done. He would still go in there and get things done, but he would always have a goofy thing to say about something, or they kind of just went for it. And MST3K, I don't know how he felt about it, because I know like Joe Don Baker, when he saw what they did to Mitchell, I guess like he was not happy at all, and so in response they did, I think it was Final Justice, another Joe Don Baker movie.
That's a funny episode.
Yeah, they just went for it on Joe Don Baker. They just went in on him the entire episode. Is it kind of like, oh, you got a problem with us with that? Well, what do you think of this one? Kind of just.
Yeah, he really turned up the heat.
Yeah, whereas like
three kinds of heat.
Three kinds of heat. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I don't think Ginty, maybe I don't know how Ginty felt about the way that they treated him in this movie, but maybe he got a kick out of it. I don't know.
All right, so Ty, is that?
Yes.
Or
who wants to be the third number one? I guess I'll do it. Which is Whitefire.
Okay, so Whitefire is number one. Okay, so we did kind of talk about it a little. Well, maybe talk about it a little bit more, which is
the movie is just insane.
Yeah, it's very nutty, and
there's this weird vibe throughout the whole movie, because there's something wrong with it. It's like
in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. But there's screw loose.
Again, he teams up with Fred Williamson. It's in Europe, and it just makes absolutely no sense, but it's great.
But something about it doesn't make it's a 4-star movie, because it's so crazy. It's just crazy insanity. So I don't want to give anything too much away. The cover, if you look at, I actually posted today on Instagram the Whitefire tape, and it's like he has a chainsaw. It's like that's perfect for the video store, by the way. Mm-hmm. So, when you get to that scene when you watch it.
Yeah, I mean, this was one I wanted to see for sure, and maybe I should have just bit the bullet and rented it.
Well, I don't want you to spend too much money,
Yeah, but I mean, it looks that good, I think.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I'm looking at it like just like from because you're talking about how it sounds, how it's like kind of. It kind of seems all over the place. It's interesting because it has multiple writing credits as well. So
yeah,
I think that's always a sign that it's either going to be really horrible in a really bad way, or really horrible in a good way. But I don't think anything good has ever come of having more than maybe two people writing something. I mean, which actually does look like it's only two people writing this, because this Jean-Marie Palardi, the one
Palardi, yeah.
Yeah, Pollard, he has 3 different writing credits as well. He did the story, he has the written by, and the adapted by. And then I guess Ted Francis, who is credited as Edward John Francis in the film, he did the screenplay. So, yeah, it seems like whenever you have more than one person writing something, that's when we start to have problems.
And it really starts to have problems if there's more than one director.
Yes, that never helps either.
All right, so without giving too much away, we'll just say Whitefire is our number one. So now, Matt, I believe it's all up to you for the final number one.
Was Exterminator. So,
okay.
So I had separated Exterminator 1 and 2 as it kind of bookended Warrior of the Lost World for me.
Now, I noticed neither of you guys.
Go ahead. Brett, go ahead.
Neither of you guys mentioned the Prophet's Game.
I've never really seen that Prophet's
Game.
Neither have I. But...
It's when Dennis Hopper has a goatee phase. I mean, all the movies are mostly pretty bad, and it's not a good movie. It's all these like serial killer thrillers you don't care about. I watched it like 2 years ago. It's like, oh wait, this sucks. Oh wait, that Spreading Ground? They're both not good.
Yeah, it's
No, Ty, what? Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. Oh, so sorry. I was gonna say, did you watch Vietnam, Texas this morning? Because I know you were
yes, I was
supposed
gonna
to do
mention
that.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to watch that because that one's available on. I was gonna. I think it's on Tubi actually.
Well, it's a whole bunch of nothing until like the last 10 minutes. He's like a priest who might think he's gonna beat people up, and he doesn't do anything, and then you barely care. It's just like, but Ginty's good in it. He does that detached acting that we've been talking about in it. So, and Tim Thomerson also is his buddy. So.
Yeah, that's something that I had an issue with Bounty Hunter as well. It's like, for whatever reason, it just like, I don't know. I think for me, a good action movie, the hero kind of just gets after it right away, and the fact that that they kind of just keep building it up, and then like I think in Bounty Hunter, for example, it's like it's built. Yeah, like it just keeps showing us how bad Bo Hopkins is, and we got it. We got it from the very beginning that Bo Hopkins was bad. We don't need to see him keep doing bad things to understand that he's bad. While Ginty's just sitting there being like, oh, what are we gonna do about these guys? It's not worth it. Just sell the land and get out of here. Why do you care?
Exactly. Yeah. And the ending is very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh. And it's like, it didn't deliver enough. But he has a cool mustache.
That's why it didn't make either of our top fives. I think that
couldn't make him. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, look, I think kind of the same thing happens with some of these. That like, there's a sense that like we don't trust that the bad guys are bad enough for whatever reason, or they feel like they need to like save it for the end. And I think one of the things that PM Entertainment did so well was like, they knew, you watch like Skyscraper, when you see Malibu come out with a vest on and no shirt underneath, and he's firing an Uzi out of a Bud Dry truck. He's bad. Yes. We know he's bad enough. We don't need to take a whole movie selling us on how bad he is. We know right away that he's bad. And so then you could just kind of get after it and just kind of have stuff happening.
Yeah, no, that you're right. That's what PM did. Definitely streamlined that whole process, and definitely good for us, the action fans.
That Snake Underwood is evil because in Last Man Standing, because his name is Snake Underwood. So
yeah, it's like they always use like what I would call baddie in a can as well on PM. It's like white supremacists, automatic baddies. You don't need to sell us on the fact that they're bad. Poachers, animal poachers. We know they're bad. And I notice a lot of movies do try to use that nowadays. Like they'll, like if they're into white slavery, right? That's always an automatic. You don't have to really develop a bad guy who's doing white slavery, right? You just know that they're bad, and it's just a despicable thing. And I think, for whatever reason, this seemed to be something too that was sometimes come up with AIP. It seemed like with AIP movies a lot that it was like, how long is it going to take for the hero to really get after? Like the good ones were the ones where like Ted Pryor is just going for it, earlier on. But it seemed like a lot of times they take their time to get there.
I have to agree with that. And the best Ted Pryor movie obviously is Center of the Web. It's like, have you seen that, Matt?
No, I haven't seen that one.
I'm not giving away. I'll stop because there's something funny that happens towards the end. So
you should see Center of the Web if you can, because that's, and also what's his name? Charles Napier has a great role in it as well.
Yep, sure does. Won't say anything else, but sure does.
Always love names. I was got Robert Davi as well. Yeah, so this is a.
Napes. I like you called them
Napes. Napes. Yeah, that's what I was calling. I think we were checking. Was it Cop Target, right?
Cop Target. We didn't get to watch that yet, but we will.
We kind of ran out of time. I think we're going to watch it tomorrow. So unfortunately, we didn't get to talk about it today. But on the bright side, because we were at Goodwill, Ty did find a copy of Beyond the Law with Seagal and Messner and DMX. So
it just came out. I found it at Goodwill yesterday on the bottom shelf.
Nice, yeah.
It's a new movie.
What?
The hot new movie, the hot new Seagal.
Yeah, because he hasn't released anything since then, which I think
he's
maybe
just sitting around at home eating cookies.
Yeah.
Well, aren't we all?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, the one thing about Beyond the Law that was disappointing was that like they didn't really do much with DMX in that film. He doesn't really get to be DMX that much.
Okay. He doesn't get to like bark and stuff. I can't do a DMX impression, but it's
Yeah.
So it's not like exit wounds all over again.
Exactly. They're selling it as exit wounds all over again. It's not. It's not exit wounds, unfortunately. The kind of the main stars in it are Johnny Mesner, which, of course, right? Whenever you see Johnny Mesner in the back of the cover, then you know he's the star, right?
Yeah, because it's not going to be DMX, it's not going to be Seagal. There's only one guy left standing.
It's going to be John Mesner.
So, did you get a chance to watch Cop Target?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So
how was it?
Yeah, I think kind of the way I was describing like Three Kinds of Heat, it's a similar vibe where I think that one even more so than Three Kinds of Heat has periods where things just aren't happening, but because Ginty kind of sells it, and then the 80s vibe sells it enough, and then Napes is good. Napes, if you're someone who likes presidential picture cameos.
Oh yes.
There is one in here. So
good.
Yeah, I love that. I love that bit that we talked about.
Yeah,
presidential pictures in the background.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's. I think again. I mean, it's an Italian production. And actually the YouTube version, the ones on YouTube, I was worried that it was going to be dubbed in Italian because the credits are in Italian. So it's like Fotografa di, so as opposed to directed by or whatever. So. Yeah, it's that part of it. It had me worried, but no, that everybody's in English, speaking in English.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna watch that.
We're gonna watch that very soon. I know there's the other Napes movie, Mean Tricks, but I saw the stream was bad on YouTube. Delayed audio.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. It's like that. Now back to square one with Mean Tricks.
Yeah.
We're gonna mention his back-to-back. I said, it's his back-to-back 80s kill movies, which were Mission Kill and Program to Kill.
Yeah, we mentioned those, Or Lady Dragon,
I never got to see Program to Kill. I did see Mission Kill, but not Program to Kill.
I think Mission Kill is very much in the vein of Codename Vengeance. But I think Codename Vengeance is a bit better because it has that awesome scene.
Yeah.
It's a kind of standard. It's worth seeing. I would call it a one-time watch. Like, there's nothing bad about it, but it is kind of standard.
It's very standard, paint by numbers, Ginty. But still Ginty,
Right, and that's what matters. And also, we didn't really spend any time talking about Lady Dragon, which I thought might come up. Yeah.
I mean, that's probably a good honorable mention, maybe.
I agree.
That was my honorable mention, just because I always think of it as a Cynthia Rothrock movie.
Yeah, I kind of forget that he's in it.
No, it definitely is. No, it is a Rothrock, no question.
I think we even put that movie on the Rothrock list when we did that episode.
I think we did. Yeah. Because I think that one, because that also had Norton in it, I believe, and I like it better than the sequel, than Lady Dragon 2. But funny things, actually, it's directed by David Worth, who directed the
Warriors Lost World, right?
Yeah, Warriors Lost World, right? Exactly. Yeah, Warriors Lost World. Yeah. Why was I thinking? Go ahead. No, sorry.
Did he direct Kickboxer, or am I wrong?
I can check into that, but I think you're right.
Okay, I just guess. Yeah.
Well, he directed a lot of 80s sort of action movies. His pedigree is pretty good. It's pretty much all he did is make these type of action video store movies that we all love and enjoy.
He was a cinematographer on Bloodsport as well. So,
Kumite. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, both Lady Dragons. Chain of Command as well. Wow.
Right, Dudikoff one, not the Patrick Muldoon.
Yeah, Shark Attack 2. He also directed Shark Attack 2, which and Shark Attack 3, the Megalodon. So he was the one that got John Barrowman to say the famous line, or told him to say something, and that's when the famous line came out.
so he has plenty to answer for with that.
Exactly. He might, if I ever tagged David Worth, he might be up there for directors on the site, as somebody who has some of the most, because he's.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I don't know if he's appreciated enough as far as a director of action movies. And you don't really hear his name mentioned too much.
No, he's been kicked to the lower rung.
Exactly.
Kicked by who? Van Damme?
Van Damme. I don't kick, I don't play. Worth. It's like instead of Biden.
I said Bison, like you always do.
I said Biden.
No, not Bison. Bison.
Bison, not Biden. Bison.
Yeah.
Whoops. M. Biden, right?
Yes, M. Biden. Well,
see, that's a good idea for some memes, right? You have Biden's head with
Biden.
like Bison's hat and everything. Like, you know, it's like where Raul Julia was, right? You just put Bison over, or you put Biden over it, and Biden. Yeah. Well, I guess we're kind of running low on time. I know, Brett, you wanted to mention a new movie that you saw recently.
Oh, yes. And also there was a Street Fighter connection to it, believe it or not, because in the movie, which is Boss Level, movie I watched last night, and in it, certain characters play Street Fighter. So that's definitely an interesting connection there. But, you know, as far as new movies that, you know, are new action movies from 2021, I thought this might be a good time to mention that if people are interested, that, you know, it's Grillo, you know, front and center. So if you like him, it's definitely a good showcase for him. And of course, Mel. Now, Mel is a little, you know, it's not really about Mel. Mel's role is a little muted in it, but I think that's all on purpose. So don't go into expecting a Mel fest. But you do get enough, but it's not, you know, you get a lot more Grillo, let me put it that way.
Grillo's cool.
Yeah, and so, I mean, because it's directed by Joe Carnahan, so it does have some of that Smoke and Aces feel, but it's also, if you mix that with Groundhog Day, it's basically what the movie is. And so Frank Grillo is caught in sort of like this time loop, and it's almost like all these people are trying to kill him, and he has to kind of figure it out. It's almost like when you play a video game over and over, and you try to, you know, pass certain levels and beat certain challenges. So he has to keep doing that, and so all these people are trying to kill him, but also he has certain family things going on, which is, again, like a movie I just watched recently that Ty turned me on to, which is The Final Girls. You know how there's like this emotion at the core of the movie that makes the movie.
Emotion in Boss Level.
Yeah, there's some very surprising emotion. So it's not just a bunch of senseless violence. Like about 3/4 of the way through the movie, it's almost like a sidewinder. It kind of sneaks around and hits you. It's like, wait a minute, wow, there's something really emotional here going on. And that is what makes the movie. That's what makes the movie. Yes, it's a clever idea and a good idea, but without that emotional core, it wouldn't be as good, in my opinion. So again, it's not, just speaking in general, it's not like CGI, and it's not kill counts, and it's not awesome shootouts that make a movie. It's the emotional core of the movie. That's what makes it good. And so you do get that with Boss Level. So I would recommend it. Yes, and so there are some little quibbles that I had with the movie, but overall, I definitely something people should watch. I give it a strong recommendation.
Yeah, and I have not done any Frank Grillo on the site before, so maybe this is a good place to start with that.
Good time to Grillo.
Yes.
It is springtime.
Yes, everyone's grilling out, so just
time to grill out. Yeah.
It's getting warmer here in Philadelphia. Time to open the grill and fire up the Grillo.
Well, exactly. If you want to fire up the Grillo, this is probably the best way to do it. Because what's interesting to me about him is that, not that he's old, but he's older. So it's like he's been trying to kind of break into the acting world for a long time, and like he finally did it. And I think that's really awesome. You know, I think it's not like about these young kids who go in these, you know, this Sean Locks and these other children that are in these action movies. Sometimes he's a fully mature man who is finally getting his due and his credit, and I think that's just such a great thing. But yeah, if you're going to check, I mean, have you seen what's the other Grillo? I've only seen one other Grillo, the Purge.
Purge Anarchy.
The Purge Anarchy. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. No, I really have not seen any Grillo at all. Like I have, I've looked into some with him, and I guess technically I've seen Grillo because he was in the Captain America movies as a character. Brock Rumlow or something, which I don't remember. So he was there, and I didn't know he was anybody. I think it actually could be kind of an interesting tie-in, because next weekend is, or not next weekend, in 2 weeks is Memorial Day weekend, so it might be kind of a good tie-in for me to do a post.
Fire up the grill.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, and because there's also a Carnahan connection with, he was in The Gray. So so that's another great. I think Joe Carnahan, has one of the best batting averages of modern day directors. I think most of his movies are good to great. I mean, he's made a lot of really the ones I've seen anyway have all been pretty darn excellent. I mean, in one way or another. I mean, A-Team is fun. I would call it a one-time watch, but if you look at his other movies like Smoking Aces, Narc, Boss Level, The Gray.
Pretty good. I wish I had that pedigree.
Yeah, it's a great pedigree
under my belt right now.
It looks like he's done a lot of TV as well. So, which I've heard that for a lot of people that work in the business now, that TV seems to be a more consistent paycheck.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so that makes sense that he's kind of just picking his projects and then doing TV stuff in between, and kind of making his money that way between.
Yeah, I think you pretty much have to, because I mean TV is so, we're in the golden age of TV. There's so many TV shows. You can always work, I think, if you want to work on TV, where it's hard to get a movie off the ground, because I think, as we've talked about, you put on any newer movie and there's 10 minutes worth of company credits that show up before the movie. It's produced by this and this and this and this and this and this and this. It's
20 minutes
production credits. Yeah, so and Boss Level's like that.
Yeah. There's Peachtree Entertainment presents a production by Apple Tree Entertainment, which presents a production
by
Movie
Grindstone
Time
Entertainment.
Yeah. What entertainment?
Grindstone.
Grindstone. Yeah, here's Grindstone and Millennium.
And they're the ones, and of course Lionsgate, and there's all these other ones. So yeah, to get a movie off the ground, I think you have to go to all these different production companies, and then we as a viewer sit there going, "Wow, this movie's produced by 25 different people in some sort of massive consortium." You can't just produce a movie anymore,
It takes so long for the movie to start, because first you hear the Lionsgate logo, da da da.
Yeah, da da da, and then then you have the FBI warning. Then you have the commentary doesn't reflect the parent company in English and French and Spanish, and then sometimes you'll have trailers. Then you have all the production company logos, and it's half an hour later before the movie even starts. Yeah, you can't skip through most of it.
And then the movie starts, and there's 25 more companies, maybe all going to be produced by a certain Emu, just to go right to back.
God, no.
To,
have you ever seen that there was a Family Guy?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where they're sitting to watch the movie, and it's just every time they think the movie's starting, it's actually just a promo for another company.
It's hilarious. It's oh, come on! It's so great.
Oh, this looks really good. Oh no, it's another promo.
Well, it's kind of like the one for Scott Free, the Ridley Scott brother, or the Scott brothers. That has kind of a cool logo, and you think, oh, this would be a cool movie. It's oh wait, no, that's just the Scott Free logo.
It's a man with broken arm panting productions. That's
and it's this animated movie. It's hey, this looks pretty cool. It's oh wait, no, it's just 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's just another production.
It's such a hilarious bit.
It is, yeah, because it's exactly what we're talking about here.
I'm gonna look that up again. Laugh.
Yeah, that's good.
But anyway, I would definitely recommend Boss Level, and especially to you, Matt, if you haven't seen any Grillo. I think there couldn't be a better introduction to Grillo. So
I think it's perfect. I can fire up the Grillo for Memorial Day weekend. That'll be the tie-in.
That's a new thing. I love it.
But, yeah.
And there's some other good people in it too, like Naomi Watts and Michelle Yeoh and Gronk. Rob Gronkowski is in it.
Gronk's in it?
Yeah.
Oh, I always love Gronk in any.
Gronk.
So great cast, good idea.
No spoilers.
I don't want to spoil anything on that.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, a bunch of. I mean, there's also Quentin Rampage Jackson's in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It seems I need to just go to Hulu and press play.
Once you do that, you'll be sucked in and you'll like the movie.
I mean, it only takes 2 buttons, and I just don't do it for some reason. So
I think we're saying before we started that I think this was supposed to go to the theater, but then a certain
thing happened.
A certain thing happened in the world, and then they kind of kicked it to Hulu. But it's theater ready. I mean, this could have gone to the theater. I mean, I think it just so happens you have to see it on Hulu.
It's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I guess maybe that's a good place for us to wrap it up. But before we do, did you guys have anything you wanted to plug?
Oh, I guess we can plug. Well, we have a podcast. I guess the Comeuppance Reviews podcast, and then we'll just connect it to the website, which is comeuppance.net. And then Brett.
We have all the social media sites.
It's Twitter, Facebook, not MySpace.
We're not on Friendster anymore, but but you can catch us on our podcast or on comeuppance.reviews.net.
And thanks for having us on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you guys Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I think Ginty's one that I've been wanting to tackle for a while, and I think you guys have also talked about wanting to do Ginty for a while. I think it's kind of how it works with our shows, where it's like, okay, we're gonna do Trimble. We'll do Trimble on our show. We'll do Ginty on your show.
Right.
Kind of
I only wanted to do Ginty with you because the Ginty more beef stew. So that's true.
For that alone, I think. No, but I am glad you did this because I do think it not only was it a fun episode to do, but I do think he's a guy that's really worth talking about and shining a light on. So I'm glad you picked him.
Yeah, it's underrated dude. So it's like,
yeah, I think for people that like the kind of movies that we like, that like these kind of films, I think Ginty's one of those ones that maybe people don't come across as much as they probably should. Like maybe people are just getting into this kind of thing, but like Ginty is one that he's one that I really should be doing more. I probably should get him in the Hall of Fame this fall as well. Like he probably belongs there even if I haven't done a lot of his movies, but it's just there's something about his stuff. Like he's kind of one of the pioneers of this whole DTV.
Yeah, definitely.
An excellent point.
Just once you watch Out on Bail and Whitefire and maybe one or two others, I think you could definitely promote him.
You get on the Ginty train. So.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, get on the Ginty. Get some good Gintage in your system.
Get some Grillo.
Fire the grill. Get some Ginty more beef, so you'll be full. You'll be very satisfied with your meal.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you guys again for coming on, and thank you very much.
Anytime.
Anytime. We'll be back soon, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Not long for sure.
In reverse, we'll do it with the next.
You'll be back on for.
You'll be back on our show. We'll be doing No Subject, which this episode almost was until we got it back on track.
Off as insurance, then we've got the game.
Right, exactly. I think we always end up with the No Subject.
Yeah, but we righted the ship and we're taking it in for a landing. So I'll let you do that.
We'll let you go.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch up with you again soon.
Bye.
When you shop at a Walmart Vision Center, you get it. You know that you'll spend a little less on stylish glasses for the whole family.
Welcome to the Vision Center. Let me know if you need help finding the perfect frames.
Hey, Mom, you were right. These glasses are cool.
Hon, they take our insurance. That means Papa's getting a new pair, too.
Whoa, glasses start at just $39. Next stop, groceries.
So you can get a little more of what you need. Find a Vision Center near you. Save money, live better. Walmart.